Hi folks, today I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to use fewer design code slots in your custom codes slots to make paths and borders. Now we all know paths are a really popular kind of design in the game. Of course you've got your standard in-game paths, a lot of people use those, but then a lot of people really prefer to use paths that are made using custom codes. However, one thing that we all know about paths is they can take upwards of 9 custom design spots, depending on how complex the path is and how varied you want it to become. However, for simpler paths, this is not necessarily the best option. I'm going to show you some tricks that I have learned either just by playing the game or from watching other people play the game online, and they're really helpful, so I'd like to get into it. The first tip that I have for you is actually one that I came up with on my own. Once I discovered that you can actually overlay custom codes over top of in-game pathing, and then I ended up going to a dream address where I saw somebody had given their in-game paths a nice border, I really wanted to create one myself. I found it challenging, but I eventually made something I was happy with using, I think, around 9 or 10 slots for the entire path. And then one day I was just like, I don't think it necessarily needs to take up this many slots. It's making it so that I can't do hardly anything else with my custom codes. I need to reduce the footprint of this border. So I thought to myself, what could I possibly do to fix this problem? And what I came up with was I decided that instead of having 4 different corner designs for my border, I would instead incorporate one singular circular design that I could use to be the corner no matter which direction the corner was facing. No matter which corner it was, it would look like a completed corner regardless of where I put it. And so I did that, and I actually ended up liking the design I created so much that now I use it as my island flag. It's basically become a little logo for my island, and I use it as a design motif. Another thing that I did when I had this path for a while was I decided that if I was okay with it being a little bit off center, not quite flush with the edge, I could reduce the number of designs I needed even further by moving it to where I just had one vertical design that was dead center and one horizontal design that was dead center, and then I wouldn't need a top and bottom or a left and right. It would just be a 3 code border, which helped a lot. The second tip is actually one that I learned about from watching another person's video. I don't remember who the person was because I'm not subscribed to them, otherwise I would credit them. However, I learned from this video that if you have just one transparent pixel on any path code, you will actually see it conform to in-game pathing that it's laid over top of. It will curve when the path curves and things like that. And so I actually used this method to make several designs conform to paths, as you can see from the photos running by here. And the cool thing about this is I actually had a yellow brick road path. It took up about 9 or 10 designs. It wasn't my own design, it was one that I had downloaded, and it actually had feathering at the edges, so I couldn't just use the middle design for the left and right. It would actually have to be like that whole thing was like 9 or 10 designs. And what I ended up doing was I made a path code on my own that was simply one tile, and since there was space between the bricks that was transparent pixels, I could actually lay down a dirt path and then overlay the brick path code over top of it, and it actually turned out pretty good, I think. And it was actually probably the only way that I was ever going to be able to do that path on my own, just because I don't feel confident I could have match up the brick placement if I were making a 9 code path. But this is actually a little bit of a shortcut to doing things that have repetitive and more like uniform shapes, things that don't necessarily have to have variance between each tile. I think this works really well. And the cool thing about all the other paths that you see here that are conforming to the in-game path's shape is that they are actually completely filled except for one empty pixel, which is what makes them conform this way instead of just overlaying an entire square over top of the in-game path. So with that said, I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. I think these tips will help you conserve on custom design slots, and I hope you have a good day. Bye!